Known famed gator hunter Troy Landry of the show Swamp People has found himself in a little bit of hot water.
Louisiana wildlife and fishery agents cited him after an undercover sting in
Troy Landry, the man every Swamp People fan knows as the king of the swamp. For over a decade, audiences have watched him conquer the murky waters of Louisiana, battling monstrous gators with unmatched skill, humor, and heart. But now, just moments ago, heartbreaking and shocking news about Troy has surfaced, and it's left fans in disbelief. For years, Troy has been the face of Swamp People, symbolizing the toughness and spirit of Cajun country. His family legacy, his famous catchphrases, and his unwavering love for the bayou made him not just a television star, but a true American icon. Yet behind those warm smiles and fearless hunts, Troy's been facing battles far more dangerous than any gator lurking beneath the swamp's surface. According to breaking reports, something serious has unfolded that could change everything for Troy and his future on the show. While the details are still emerging, sources close to the Landry family have confirmed that the beloved alligator hunter has been quietly struggling with a major personal and health-related challenge, one that's now impossible to keep hidden. Fans across the world are flooding social media with messages of support and concern, praying for good news. The History Channel has yet to release an official statement, but insiders claim that what's happening could mark a turning point in Troy's life, and possibly the future of Swamp People itself. So what really happened to Troy Landry? What's the truth behind the heartbreaking news that's sending shockwaves through the Swamp People community? Stay tuned, because the story behind the King of the Swamp will leave you stunned. For more than a decade, Troy Landry has been the heart and soul of Swamp People. When the show first premiered on the History Channel back in 2010, few expected it to become the cultural phenomenon it did. But from the very first episode, Troy's larger-than-life personality, Cajun drawl, and unshakable courage made him a fan favorite. Viewers from around the world, even those who had never set foot in Louisiana, found themselves captivated by the swamp, by the gator hunts, and most of all, by Troy. He wasn't just another reality TV star. He was authentic. The kind of man who worked hard, loved his family fiercely, and lived by his own rules. Dressed in his signature striped polo shirts and worn-out jeans, Troy became a symbol of the bayou spirit, tough, loyal, and deeply rooted in tradition. To many, he represented the last of a dying breed, a man who lived off the land, respected nature, and found joy in the simple things. Each season of Swamp People showed Troy doing what he does best, navigating the dangerous, unpredictable waters of the Atchafalaya Basin with calm confidence. Whether shouting his iconic line, "Shoot 'em," or teaching his sons the ways of the swamp, Troy reminded audiences that his world wasn't about fame or money. It was about family, heritage, and survival. But what viewers didn't always see was the weight that came with being the king of the swamp. Behind the scenes, Troy carried immense responsibility, not just for his own family, but for preserving the Cajun way of life. In interviews, he often spoke about the changes happening around the bayou, environmental shifts, dwindling wildlife, and the increasing pressures of fame. "The swamp is our home," he once said, "and it's up to us to protect it." Troy's passion for Louisiana and its people went far beyond television. When he wasn't filming, he could often be found helping local fishermen, visiting schools, or lending a hand to wildlife preservation efforts. He was the same man off camera as he was on it, humble, generous, and grounded. However, fame has a way of bringing both light and shadow. As the show's popularity grew, so did the demands on Troy's time. Long filming days, public appearances, and the pressure of representing an entire community began to take a toll. Friends noticed that he was slowing down, not in spirit but in energy. The physical toll of years spent battling alligators, hauling heavy gear, and living under extreme conditions began to catch up to him. Then came the whispers, rumors that Troy wasn't feeling well. Fans noticed he looked thinner in recent seasons, his movements a little slower, his face a little more tired. Yet true to his nature, Troy brushed it off with humor and humility. "I'm just getting old," he'd say with a laugh, trying to keep the attention off himself. But those close to him knew better. His family, particularly his sons, Jacob, Chase, and Brandon, had begun stepping up, taking on more responsibility in the hunts and filming. It wasn't just a natural progression. It was a sign that Troy might be preparing for something none of them wanted to talk about. Even then, Troy refused to let his struggles define him. He continued showing up for his fans, for his crew, and for the swamp that made him who he was. "You don't quit the swamp," he once said. "You just learn to listen to it a little better." But now, with breaking news surfacing just minutes ago, it seems the swamp's most beloved son is facing a new kind of battle, one that no amount of experience, strength, or grit could have prepared him for. And as fans hold their breath, the question remains, what happened to Troy Landry? And will this mark the end of an era for swamp people? Behind Troy Landry's familiar grin and Cajun charm, a storm had been brewing for months, one that even the toughest man in the swamp couldn't outrun. Those close to him began to notice small but worrying changes. He wasn't quite himself. His energy wasn't the same. Some days he would cancel shoots or stay home longer than usual, claiming he just needed rest. But the truth was far heavier than anyone outside his family could imagine. It started quietly, almost unnoticeably. Troy began experiencing sharp pains in his abdomen that would come and go. At first, he brushed it off. "Probably something I ate," he told his wife Bernita with a wink. But as time went on, the pain grew worse, spreading and becoming harder to ignore. Still, in classic Troy fashion, he kept it to himself, not wanting to worry his family or fans. He was the rock of the Landry clan, the man everyone looked to for strength. The idea of showing weakness wasn't something he could accept easily, but soon it became impossible to hide. During a filming session deep in the Atchafalaya Basin, crew members noticed Troy struggling to move a heavy line. He stopped, clutching his side, and for a moment, the unstoppable king of the swamp looked vulnerable. His son Jacob rushed over, insisting he take a break, but Troy, ever stubborn, insisted on finishing the hunt. It wasn't until the pain became unbearable that he agreed to see a doctor. The diagnosis stunned everyone. After a series of tests, doctors discovered a malignant mass near Troy's bladder, a rare and aggressive form of cancer. The news hit the Landry family like a punch to the gut. Troy had always been the strong one, the fighter, the man who stared down 12-foot gators without blinking. But this was something he couldn't wrestle into submission, something that required a different kind of strength. For a while, Troy tried to keep the diagnosis private. Only his immediate family and a few close friends knew. He didn't want pity. He didn't want headlines. "Ain't nobody need to hear about my problems," he told Jacob. "We got work to do." But word travels fast in a small town, and soon whispers began circulating around Pierre Par, Louisiana. When news finally broke that Troy was battling cancer, fans across the world were heartbroken. The History Channel released a brief statement acknowledging that Troy was taking time to focus on his health, but the details were left vague. Fans flooded social media with prayers and words of encouragement. Many shared how Troy had inspired them, not just with his gator hunting skills, but with his positivity, grit, and love for life. Meanwhile, the Landry family rallied around him. His wife, Bernita, became his caretaker and emotional anchor, never leaving his side through treatments and long hospital visits. His sons took over more of the show's responsibilities, often dedicating episodes to their father. "We're just holding down the fort until Dad's ready to come back," Jacob told fans. Through it all, Troy never lost his humor. Even in the hospital, nurses recalled him cracking jokes in his thick Cajun accent, making everyone laugh. "You can't let it get the better of you," he reportedly said. "You keep smiling, keep fighting. That's how we do it in the swamp." But privately, the fight was brutal. Chemotherapy drained his strength. The treatments took a toll on his body and spirit. There were nights when he couldn't sleep, when the pain was too much, and when doubts crept in. But every morning he'd wake up and remind himself of the same thing he'd told his sons for years. "You don't quit." Not ever, despite everything. Troy kept his fans updated in his own simple way, through short Facebook posts and rare interviews where he assured everyone he was doing just fine. But those close to him say that even in his hardest moments, his biggest worry wasn't about himself. It was about the show, the crew, and the people who looked up to him. Now, with the latest news breaking, it seems that Troy's private battle has reached a new chapter, one that could determine not only his future, but the future of Swamp People itself. When word of Troy Landry's illness began to spread, the entire Swamp People community fell into an uneasy quiet. For years, the show had been defined by the roar of boat engines, the splash of gators, and Troy's booming voice echoing across the bayou. But now, for the first time, the swamp itself seemed subdued, almost as if it, too, was holding its breath for its most beloved son, the History Channel, which had always relied on Troy's charisma to anchor the... His sons continued filming in his absence, but each episode carried a different tone. You could see it in their eyes, a quiet worry, a sense of trying to fill a space that couldn't truly be filled. Jacob often spoke about his father on camera, saying, "Dad taught me everything I know. Every gator we catch now, we catch for him." Despite his illness, Troy refused to let despair win. On days when he felt strong enough, he'd drive down to the docks just to check in. The crew would gather around him, and for a few moments, it felt like old times again. The laughter, the teasing, the brotherhood that had made Swamp People what it was. Fans from across the country began sending letters and gifts. One child wrote, "You're my hero, Mr. Troy. Please get better soon so you can catch more gators." Another fan sent a handmade wooden carving of a gator with the words, "Shoot 'em forever," etched across it. Troy reportedly kept it by his bedside throughout his treatment. Yet even with the love and support, the reality of his condition couldn't be ignored. Treatments were grueling. Some days he barely had the strength to get out of bed. Doctors warned him that he needed to take it easy, but anyone who knows Troy Landry knows that easy isn't in his vocabulary. "I just want to get back to work," he'd say. "I miss the swamp. I miss my people." Then came a moment that no one expected. In a quiet update video filmed by his son Jacob and shared online, Troy appeared visibly thinner, his voice softer but still carrying that unmistakable Cajun grit. Looking into the camera, he said, "I've been fighting hard, y'all. Some days are rough, but I got my family, I got my faith, and I got all of you pulling for me. That means more than you know." The video went viral overnight. Within hours, hundreds of thousands of fans shared it with messages like, "Keep fighting, Troy," and "The swamp's not the same without you." It was clear then, this wasn't just about a TV show. It was about a man who had come to represent resilience itself, a man who embodied the soul of Louisiana. And as Troy continued his battle, the swamp waited, still, silent, and steadfast, for the return of its king. But what happened next would change everything. Just as fans began to hope for a comeback, Troy made a public state after months of silence, whispers, and prayers. Troy Landry finally decided it was time to speak directly to the people who had supported him since the very beginning. On a warm Louisiana evening, with the sun dipping below the cypress trees and the sound of frogs echoing through the swamp, Troy sat down with his son Jacob to record a message that would soon break hearts around the world. The video began simply, no camera crew, no script, just Troy in his familiar cap, sitting on the porch of his home overlooking the bayou. His voice, though softer now, still carried the unmistakable warmth that had made him a household name. "Hey, y'all," he started, pausing briefly as a faint smile crossed his face. "It's been a long road. I wanted to come on here myself and tell y'all how things are going. Straight from me, no rumors, no fancy talk." For a moment, he looked out over the water, gathering his thoughts. Then, with quiet strength, he continued, "The truth is, this fight's been tougher than any gator I've ever faced. Some days I didn't think I'd make it this far, but I did. Thanks to my family, my friends, and all of you who never stopped praying for me." His eyes glistened as he spoke, the weight of the journey written across his weathered face. "When I first heard the word cancer, I'll be honest, I was scared. But fear don't help you none. Faith does. I put my trust in God, and I promised myself I'd fight as long as He let me. Fans watching could see that this wasn't the same Troy Landry who once ruled the swamp with unstoppable energy. This was a man transformed, humbled by struggle, strengthened by love, and grateful beyond measure. He went on to thank his wife, Bernita, for standing by him through every moment of pain and uncertainty. "She's my rock," he said. "I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for her." He also praised his sons, Jacob and Chase, for keeping the swamp going while he recovered. Then came the moment that left fans speechless. Troy revealed that, after months of intense treatment and several surgeries, doctors had finally delivered the words he'd been praying for. He was officially cancer-free. A huge smile spread across his face as he said, "They told me I beat it, y'all. The good Lord done gave me another chance." Within hours of the video being posted, it exploded across social media. Millions of fans shared it with tears of joy, celebrating the survival of the man who had become more than just a TV personality. He was a symbol of perseverance. Comments poured in from across the world. "The swamp ain't the same without you, Troy. Glad you're back. You've inspired us all to keep fighting. The Gator King lives on." Troy later gave a short interview to The Advocate, where he admitted that while he'd been given a clean bill of health, he didn't plan on jumping straight back into filming full-time. "I gotta take it slow," he said. "The swamp will always be there, but I want to spend some time just living, fishing, laughing, sitting with my grandkids. That's what matters most now." Still, he hinted that fans haven't seen the last of him. "When the time's right, I'll be back out there. You can bet on that." In the weeks that followed, the bayou seemed to come alive again. Locals spoke of seeing Troy back on his boat, smiling, waving, and checking his lines. The cameras might not have been rolling, but the legend of Troy Landry was stronger than ever. His story became more than just a tale of survival. It became a testament to courage, faith, and the unbreakable human spirit. The king of the swamp had stared down death and won. As he signed off that evening in his now famous video, his words echoed across the hearts of millions. "Life's like the swamp, y'all. Sometimes it's rough, sometimes it's muddy, but if you keep moving forward, you'll always find your way home." And with that, Troy Landry reminded the world why legends never really fade. They just find new ways to shine. Meant that no one saw coming.